products in the market that are flu vaccines that are egg-free and made out of cell culture. Go back to the pandemic, and now you have the next evolution of that technology with mRNA vaccines. Bringing together the right group of folks, scientists, engineering, manufacturing folks, to look at technology to make it scalable and commercial. There's a whole ecosystem of technology companies and engineers to drive the advancement of the manufacturing side of the business. One of the owners was a founding member of this professional organization, International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering, ISPE. He said, you need to join ISPE. When I run into an issue at work or problem we're trying to solve, I now have a great network of people. I can just pick up the phone and call them, email them, and say, hey, how's your company dealing with this? To wake up every morning and say, I'm going to go make a difference in the lives of patients who need therapies. What a great mission to have.
All right, welcome to another episode of Life Sciences 360. My guest today is Scott. Scott is somebody that I had to bring on to this show because he has tons of experience, 30 years almost, and he's worked at some amazing organizations like Novartis, Biogen, Thermo Fisher, Merck, and he truly is somebody who understands the whole landscape of pharmaceutical drug development, how to run a facility, and how to basically integrate different technologies in making these facilities more resilient and also innovating at the same time. So I can't wait to get into this one. And I know there's a lot of challenges with adopting technology, automation, all of these things into making a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility for life sciences. And I can't think of a better person than Scott to come and share with us what he's learned all over the years to where he is now into a very unique role at a very unique company. We're going to talk more about that and how that spun off from another big corporation. So without any further ado, let's dive in and have a chat with Scott. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you, Harsh. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I want to start off by asking you how when you first started your career and now that you look back, did you anticipate that you were going to be part of so many amazing organizations and have the opportunity to impact or oversee the global engineering and facility operations for some of the best companies in the world?
Yeah, no, it's been a great journey. When I started out my career, had no idea that this is where I would end up. I started out in design engineer, but did a internship for a company that was dedicated to the pharmaceutical sector, and that really was my first entry and introduction to the type of work that the pharma and biotech industry does. And from the very beginning, seeing the technology, seeing the therapies, I was immediately all in on trying to get a career in this field.
Yeah, and we might have a lot of listeners that are in pharma and that are keeping up with all the advancements in drug manufacturing and development and everything that's happening. But we also might have some listeners who are new, who are not in pharma. They're just here to learn. What's based on your experience at depth and breadth of experience in this space? What have you seen in the past? What's one unexpected way that drug manufacturing has evolved since when you started and where you are today?
Yeah, it's amazing to see the technology and scientific advances in the industry. If I just look or use one example of vaccines, the nature's bioreactor is the egg, right? Flu vaccines, and one of the very first manufacturing facilities that I worked in, making flu vaccines in eggs. That then developed into cell culture technology, right?
Yeah.
And now we have, products in the market that are flu vaccines that are egg-free and made out of cell culture. And now you go back to the pandemic, and now you have the next evolution of that technology with mRNA vaccines. And so when you just look at that one segment of our overall industry, and you think about that journey over the past 20 to 30 years, you can see the technological advancement and the science that's put into the therapies that the industry provides.
Quick word for you. Here's something interesting that my team shared with me from the back end of our YouTube channel. 87.8% of the people who've watched any of our videos throughout the lifetime of the channel have not yet subscribed. If you're one of them, we'd love to have you on board. Subscribing is free, literally costs you nothing, but it means the world to us. It helps us bring in more top tier industry leaders and experts, and also helps us improve the production quality of our episodes. So, if you watched any of our videos before, found something valuable, or learned more about our topic or our guest, could I please ask you for a small favor to go ahead and click the subscribe button below? Thank you, and I'll repay that gesture by making sure that everything we do here gets better and better with every new video uploaded to the channel. That is my word to you. We could not have done this without you, and I appreciate all your support. Thank you, and let's go back to the episode. Yeah, and those are great examples. Do you, do you know, like, what are some other factors? Why are we seeing, drug manufacturing and having a manufacturing facility? Why are we seeing so much of innovation and the way companies are set up? I mean, we're seeing this in pharma. We're also seeing this on the CDMO side, where they're helping, biotech companies as a collaborative partner to, develop and commercialize therapeutics. So what are other factors that is driving so much of innovation in how a facility is built, how it is scaled up, and how it runs to its full potential?
Yeah, the manufacturing facilities are born out of the science that comes from research and development and the
Mm,
pipelines of the companies, right? The truly innovative science is in that drug development space, and over the past 5 to 10 years, in the advancements of mRNA, cell and gene therapy, as the science develops and the therapies come out of research, it's on the engineering and technology industry and manufacturing to figure out how to make those scalable, how to make
mhm.
those efficiently, and make them obviously safe and effective. And so, really, the innovation in the pipeline, in the new therapies that these companies are coming up with, drives the need for the technology to follow.
Yeah, and many people may not realize this, but anytime you have a new technology, like the ones that you mentioned about mRNA. There's also personalized medicine. Uh, Anytime there's all these new technologies that are being adapted as like the new way of, uh, making drugs and medicines, they also come with their own, inherent challenges that maybe we know or we do not know when we implement them. So uh, what's your take based on all the roles you've been? How have you approached in identifying what these challenges are when you implement the new technologies? And also, how do you then overcome them to make sure that they remain as efficient as possible?
Yeah, it all starts in that scale up and development process after it comes out of R&D. Bringing together the right group of folks across the scientists as well as the engineering and manufacturing folks to to look at what technology is out there that's
Hmm.
available to make it scalable and commercial, right? To provide the number of patients that need the therapy, and then working across the industry. What's great about the overall pharmaceutical industry is there's so many vendors, technology providers that are there along for the journey of developing these drugs. And so, as you come out of the innovative pharmaceutical companies that are discovering them, there's a whole ecosystem of technology companies and engineers to drive the advancement of the manufacturing side of the business.
Yeah, and as I mentioned at the start of the episode, you worked at some really amazing companies and also have had the chance to be at the forefront of, managing all aspects of engineering or the facility and technology at those facilities. So when you look at all the stuff that you've done, is there one specific facility layout or structure? Is there a technology? Is there something that you reflect upon that you feel is like a major advancement not just in the company where you were, but for the entire industry?
For me, it's the life cycle of the technologies. Whether you're looking at small molecule,
Hmm.
you're looking at large molecule, proteins, monoclonal antibodies, or now with cell and gene therapies.
Yeah.
Each of those delivery systems has its life cycle of coming out, small processes, making sure that you can make safe and effective therapies, and then a journey of technology and equipment and processes catching up to make them larger scale manufacturing processes, which really helps drive the efficiency and drive down the cost to make it more available for more patients globally. And so when you look at each of those technology, they have that evolution, they have that cycle. Obviously, small molecule, much longer known technology, you know, a lot of efficient processes out there. Biotech, when I first got involved in the industry, there were many processes that were still very small scale, a lot
Hmm.
of manual processes that, you know, through the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s scaled up to, scales of 10,000, 20,000 liter bioreactors, higher
Yep.
titers, better output, again, making more product and making it efficiently. Cell and gene therapies in that same journey.
Hmm.
They're smaller batches. You mentioned personalized medicine, right? A batch of one batch equals one patient.
Yep.
It's in its infancy now, and the technology is going to catch up just like it did in the other modalities.
Right. Yeah. That's been, I feel really fortunate to have got the chance to work in the cell and gene therapy space in the past 5 years or 7 years. And then also, since I started consulting 2 years ago, our team has got a chance to work with so many cell and gene therapy companies. And it's always exciting to, go work with a new client. Yes, we do help them on quality management, regulatory affairs, regulatory compliance, software validation, these kind of projects. But understanding that technology, understanding, how their product is made, who is it made for, how does it work? This whole cell and gene therapy area is very interesting, first of all. And I've been like, as every time I get a new client, it's the way they're they're doing it, the way they're running the trials, and managing all aspects of manufacturing for these specific cell and gene therapy. It's always seems to amaze me because I'm always learning something new in this space.
Yeah, we're when you think about it, we are in the infancy of this modality. Even
Yeah.
though we have approved therapies and people have been working on it for many years, there's still a lot to come in this technology.
Yeah, so not many people know this, but you're currently at a company called Solventum. And as I was researching about the company and your role, there's a lot of interesting tidbits as to how it was born. Do you want to share with our listeners who maybe are not aware of all that development?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not many people have heard of Solventum. We are now 6 months old as an
Mm.
independent company, but really we're a company that's a new company that has 70 plus years of innovation behind us. So Solventum was born off of the 3M healthcare sector, and we spun off as an independent company in April of this year. And so we provide solutions for our patients in many different areas in the medical, surgical, and wound prevention and infection prevention areas, in the dental solutions area, whether it's corrective or restorative solutions in dental. We purification and filtration, everything from industrial and water filtration to sterile filtration for the biotech and pharma industry. And then
Yep.
we have a health information services division where doctors and hospitals can more efficiently control the data for their patients. And so it's been an exciting time at the company to separate from 3M and start this journey to be a new healthcare company.
Okay. And are you so in your role is similar to what you did in the past? Is that correct? You're still like heading up the technology facilities engineering group?
Correct. Yeah. So for Solventum, I
Yeah.
head up global engineering, process technology, and then real estate and facilities for our full portfolio footprint of manufacturing, R&D, and other facilities.
Okay. Okay. That's great. And I know that you're not just this is also another thing that many people may not know about you, which I, you know, as I was researching, I saw you're not just doing stuff within your roles, within your, within the life sciences. You are also contributing a lot with external organizations like ISPE. So, when did you first? Before I go and ask you about a bunch of questions there, which I have, when you look back at your career, when did you first feel like, okay, I need to do more on the outside, like I need to work with different organizations, I need to work with other professionals, and maybe make a bigger impact than just what's in my job description?
Yeah. Thanks. That's a great question. Early in my career, when I decided to get into the pharmaceutical and biotech area, it was actually with a consulting firm.
Mm.
And one of the owners of that firm was a founding member of this professional organization, International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering, right, ISPE.
Hmm.
And so when I started there, and I said, look, I need to learn more about pharma and biotech. What, how can I be a quick study? How can I learn more about the technologies and the therapies? And he immediately said, "Oh, well, that's an easy answer. You need to join ISPE and you need to get engaged outside of work in these forums." And it was a great experience, right? For anyone in any profession, there's typically a professional network or society or organization out there that deals with training and knowledge sharing, and has trade shows and forums, right? There's lots of organizations, and you know doing that outside of work really helped accelerate not only my knowledge of the industry but my
Yep.
connections within the industry and understanding where the industry was going.
Right. Yeah, I haven't really been involved much with ISP other than, what I do on a consulting side of things, because I'm involved in a lot of technology and software validation projects. People who are in life sciences might be familiar with ISP GAMP 5, which is
Right.
the guidance that pretty much every consultant and every company I know uses for software validation. So
Yeah.
I've attended a few events and stuff, but I'm not. Maybe after this episode, I'll reach out to you of how
That's
I
right. We
can
need to
do.
get you signed up as a member.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to do more. I've done it for a few other organizations. I'm not going to name them here, but yeah. So, so I also saw that you are involved in the fes- within ISP. There's this, identifying facility of the year, and you're involved with them in figuring out. So, what do you look for in whether when you get the nominations, or when you and the ISP team have to give the award or designation for an award winning facility? What are some things that you're looking for before you identify some site as an award winning facility?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. The Facility of the Year award is something that's been going on for many years
Hmm.
at ISPE. And it's really a way for the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies, as well as the equipment suppliers and technology engineering firms, to showcase the great work that they do every year in industry. And so we open up submissions on a yearly basis. There's several categories around innovation and technologies and project execution. And it's a way to showcase the great work that the entire industry is doing. And
Hmm.
so, as judges, there's some criteria, just baseline criteria of the facility has to meet and be producing, material or meeting its intended purpose. But every year, the bar gets raised,
Yeah.
and so to win an award, we're looking for that new innovation, either in a technology, in the science, in a solution to a problem that others couldn't solve. Sometimes it's innovative ways of executing a project, right? Thinking
Hmm.
of how to do things faster, cheaper, but still at the same quality. And so every year we look at the different categories, we read the submissions, and we really look for game changing methodologies or innovations and things that have not been done before. So every year it builds on itself, and people just keep raising the bar, and it's amazing to see some of the facilities that have been built in our industry over the past several years.
So, are these? Is there like a geographical criteria for where this facility can be, or because it's ISP is international? Like, is it just U.S. or it could be outside U.S.?
No, it's totally global.
Global. Okay.
Anywhere in the world, the criteria is around that it's life sciences related. So it can be an
Yep.
R&D facility, small molecule, large molecule, cell and gene therapy. Also, the criteria doesn't matter how large the project is. We've had
Mm,
projects that are just one room renovations and an equipment installation that have won awards for their
nice.
innovative thinking, to brand new greenfield biotechnology facilities winning awards, and so we have different categories to make sure we acknowledge the good work across the globe and across the various sizes
Mm.
of projects.
Are
Over the
you?
last several years,
Yeah.
I think most of our award winning submissions have been outside the US.
Interesting. Interesting. Are you seeing a specific region that you maybe weren't seeing before, and you're like, hey, we're getting like so many companies filing for or submitting themselves for this award, or we're suddenly seeing too many companies in this one region. Do you have any insights on that? Have you seen anything as you're getting all these nominations?
I think coming out of the pandemic, we saw over the past 4 years a larger submission set from countries that we traditionally did not get submissions from,
Mm,
and I believe that's because of the country investments for COVID vaccines, but also coming out of that experience, these countries are looking forward and saying, we need pharmaceutical manufacturing within our borders. And so
interesting.
that has really spawned some additional investment globally from countries. And so we are seeing some submissions that would come from countries that, we never received submissions from before.
Interesting. And how so? I know we could potentially have a whole episode just on ISP and what you're doing there.
Yeah,
But for people who are not in life sciences, who don't know what ISP is, can you share, maybe in a few sentences, how does exactly ISP help, with the collaboration between organizations and collaboration between uh, companies and other external partners and consultants and so on?
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So ISPE is a not-for-profit professional organization, and we look to share pharmaceutical knowledge
Mm,
across the globe. And that's for all modalities, all companies, all nationalities. And so we do that through many different forums. We're very much a membership led organization. And so we've created uh, these communities of practice that
mm,
are centered around certain topics or technologies. And these communities of practice are all things that our membership is asking for. They say, we want to get together as a community and talk about this and talk about, what's the next innovation? How are our peers in industry tackling certain problems? And it's really through those communities of practice that we get a lot of our engagement. Coming out of those communities of practice, then they identify certain knowledge articles, whether it be an article in our pharmaceutical engineering magazine
hmm
or a baseline guide, leading to things like you mentioned, GAMP,
Yep.
right? GAMP came out of that process. And so based on the topic, based on the industry need, we will then also have volunteers that will draft our baseline guides
Yeah.
and our guidance documents and our best practice documents, which are available to everyone, that really drive that foundation and common way of approaching different systems, different technologies to try to create a standard for the globe of expectations when building, a new pharmaceutical or biotech manufacturing facility. We then
Yeah.
also have, you know, we have meetings that are focused on certain topics. Every year we have a meeting that's focused on facilities of the future, right? And bringing in speakers and presentations on what is that next innovation that manufacturers are bringing to the table or that equipment suppliers are working on. We have one dedicated to industry and pharma 4.0
Hmm.
and our digital journey as we all go down that road. And so we have a biotech focused conference. And so we have very specific conferences focused throughout the year from the international organization that brings like-minded professionals together to learn and knowledge share with each other.
Right. And I think there's also like regional chapters or communities,
Yep.
right? Like there's one, San Francisco has one. I know North Carolina has one.
Yes, correct. And that is a huge part of the ISP community.
Hmm.
One part is the global programs that we put on, but most of our members, are located in regions and work in the region where they live. And so we have a chapter and affiliate network across the globe that puts on their own local training, seminars, meetings as well.
Yeah.
And so through ISP, there's engagement at all levels, from the local level, getting those local regional, the Boston area chapter,
Yeah.
the Raleigh, North Carolina chapter, you mentioned that, San Francisco. These are traditionally life sciences biotech hubs, and so those,
Yeah.
very strong chapters in those areas, and a great community of ISP members that get together locally as well.
Yeah. With all the stuff you're doing with ISP, I'm getting a feel that you are getting a ton of exposure to, going to different events, conferences, interacting with different companies, different professionals. Then when you come back to work, let's say at Solventum, where you are currently in your role, uh, how do you like absorb all of this? Because I mean, there's so much information. I go to one conference and it's like I come back with a bag full of pamphlets and information, and I'm researching every website for the next week. How do you figure out? I guess my question is, how do you absorb all of that and say, you know what, all this stuff is a bunch of noise, but this right here is something really need to look into.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes the information you get out of these seminars or these shows isn't something you needed right then,
Mm,
but in a year you're going to remember, oh, I went to that ISP conference, they talked about that. And
right.
what's great about ISP is it's not just about the technical content, it's about building your network, right?
Mm,
Meeting your peers in industry, making those personal connections and having those discussions. And so what I've found probably the most valuable in my, oh my gosh, I'm probably 30 years at ISP almost here at this point, is that network. And that when I run into an issue at work or a problem we're trying to solve, or even just a benchmark, hey, how are other people doing this?
yeah.
I now have a great network of people. I can just pick up the phone and call them, email them, and say, hey, how's your company dealing with this? What solutions are you seeing? Here's what we're looking at. And
Right.
you know, having that network at your fingertips is so invaluable, right? Because to your point, you're never going to remember everything you learned at a conference, but you probably are going to remember the people you met and the people you could call and ask how they're dealing with the same challenges you are.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the main advantages of all these professional niche industry specific
Yeah,
professional organizations is that you otherwise, when you're working in a company, you're limited to people in that company. If it's global, maybe you have a little bit more exposure
right.
and a little bit more knowledge of how employees in Europe in the same company operate versus employees in US. But for many people, unless they're active on social media or they're doing a lot of speeches and going to conferences, there's also limited how much you can go, right? Like there's limits on how many conferences you can go a year.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've definitely had some certifications. I've gone to some conferences, but yeah, knowing people is like you said, you may not, you come, somebody, you exchange emails, you connect with them on LinkedIn or somewhere, but then
yeah,
6 months down the line, you're like, hey, I talked to you about that. Can you, I'm having that problem now. Can you jump on a call or something like that? So that's
yeah,
very
exactly.
true.
Yeah.
What's I have to ask you this because you've been in the industry so long, and I don't take I don't want to butcher this word, longevity. I don't take that as it is very serious, right? Especially for somebody who's just entering the industry or who's been just there for 5 years and looking at what they want in the future. What has been one guiding mantra or principle that you have approached everything in your career with?
It, I think the industry that we're in has just the best mission of any job you could have, right?
Yeah.
To wake up every morning and say, I'm going to go try to make a difference in the lives of patients who need therapies, who need help. What a great mission to have, right? And so I always just try to remember that, everyone has tough days and tough weeks, but if you put it in the context of, what is it that you're trying to achieve? That ultimate goal is the mission of improving patients' lives through the work that we deliver. And so that's why I've stayed in this industry so long. It's a great motivator, especially once you start working at companies and you actually see the therapies or the products that you're working on impact the lives of your friends and your family. Right? There's nothing that hits closer to home than having a friend or a family member using the therapy that your company is making. And it's just,
Yep.
makes it easy to come to work every day.
Yeah. It's definitely, and that's a great example. Knowing somebody at that personal level. But to me, even I've said this before on other, with chats with other guests here, that I used to remember when I was as an employee at some of the companies where I worked at. We used to have these lunch meetings or lunch events or company meetings where we would have patients come
Yeah.
on, and literally there would be a slide deck of before and after of whether they were in a clinical trial or whether they took a
Right.
commercial product, how it changed their lives, pictures with their families. They were not able to travel before and now they're going to all these places, and seeing that just reshifts your focus when you leave. I've seen this firsthand when people leave that room after this meeting with and where this patient has shared their story. The next day they come in, it's like a massive reset button in their head, and they now
Yeah.
know like why they're here.
Right. And everywhere I've worked, they've done that, right? The
Yeah.
bringing in the patient, making it personal, is a great motivating factor for the whole team.
Yeah. Scott, I know you're extremely busy. You have a lot on your plate in your new role, and I'm really thank you for coming on here and sharing everything about your career, what you've done, everything you're doing at ISP. Before we drop off, do you want to share with the audience how they can get in touch with you, and how can they learn more about ISP? Maybe become a member or get involved in any of the initiatives going on there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn for folks that want to connect.
Yep.
And for ISPE, ispe.org is our main website.
Yep.
And we make all of our material available to members and non-members, right? Members do get certain access to other data and maybe some discounts, but there's a lot out there available to non-members as well. But so I encourage people to go look at isp.org, see all the various offerings that are out there, from, again, trainings to seminars to knowledge management documents and our best practices and our baseline guides. There's a wealth of knowledge out there as folks are trying to learn about the industry. We have some, what I would call, basic material and trainings for folks that are just trying to learn. And there's some more technical and more advanced documents as well for the more seasoned professionals.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those. We'll add that in the show notes. And again, once again, thanks for coming on here. It's been an amazing time having a chat with you. Wish you all the best in your role at Solventum and beyond. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It was great talking to you today, Harsh.
Yep.